Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Today we're going to talk a little bit about choline. Preventative medicine in light of a global disease outbreak. Now I have to be very careful what I say here because, of course, YouTube still has the censorship and the theoretical threat of misinformation, misbehavior going on. Sometime in 2020, an event started going around the world that was kind of like a disease outbreak, sort of maybe. Might have been, or 2019, might have been 2020. You know, the general consensus is that this happened in 2020. Sometime a little bit later on, in that same year, development of several new preventative treatments, theoretical preventative treatments. The development was commercialized and brought to market and made available to various publics around the world. Now, these things are obviously not, they are just preventative things, chemical compounds of some sort, right? We won't talk about what they actually are. Now, at a similar time to when those started becoming used in a widespread fashion, some events in health started happening. We started having something called sudden adult death syndrome, which is a diagnosis of exclusion. It's like we don't know what happened, so we're just going to call it this. We started having things that got labeled, possibly accurately, possibly inaccurately, as myocarditis or heart problems or strokes or something. And I'm not saying that any of this really happened, YouTube. I'm just saying that, there were a lot of reports that started happening at a similar time frame. And there's a lot of speculation as to why. I have seen, and again, I'm not saying that any of this is true or false, but I have seen reports that this was due to global warming, that this is due to exercise, that this is due to being outdoors. I've seen reports that it was due to cold air, and now the latest set of reports is that it's due to choline in eggs. Choline is an essential nutrient. The US RDA for choline for adult males is something like 450 milligrams. I have to look this up a little bit. Something like that. Of course, eggs have a really significant amount. So 2 eggs is half of the RDA, the RDA minimum. There is no labeled maximum. It is an absolutely essential nutrient according to the US medical agencies. So this is not something I'm making up here. Now, the RDI, recommended daily intake, is sometimes considered to be very low. That's the intake necessary to prevent symptoms of being low. So that's kind of the thing. So now there's a study out, and apparently this is from a group. Oh, here, the RDI, minimum 550 milligrams per day. Pregnant women 930, so on. It's an essential thing. So that's a lot. Okay, that's a half a dozen eggs, And again, I'm sorry that I'm saying that this way, but this is just YouTube and I have to deal with it. So there's a clinic in the Cleveland Clinic has conducted a study that may suggest, now none of this is science, this is just may suggest, with further study needs to be done, that choline could increase the risk of blood clots if consumed in high concentrations, like you're eating 5 or 6 dozen eggs a day for a year. So really high concentrations. And that doesn't actually have anything to do with the potential health problems that are being reported since the fall of 2020. The collapses and sudden deaths on the fields of play and on TV and whatever is going on. Just these things happen. They have no relationship to any medications or inoculation therapies or diseases or anything. Whatever. They just coincidentally started happening rapidly around the same time. But of course, there was a disease that outbreak at the same time. So who knows what's going on, right? I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything at all. But the media, not me, the media itself has variously blamed global warming, cold air, hot air, heat stroke, exercise, lack of exercise, too much exercise or lack of exercise, all sorts of things, and now eggs, of course, for this. And it's really interesting how there's almost a weekly or bi-weekly narrative shift to try to change the conversation about these mysterious deaths so that they are handled in a specific fashion. There are things you just can't talk about. We know that we can't talk about them because I'm not talking about them now. We know that they are not in any way, shape, or form related to anything that we're not allowed to talk about. But I do find it really amusing that people are expected to take seriously the weirdest and wackiest new media boondoggle of the week. This egg one is just unbelievable because you see, I've talked to people out in public about this, and they have this in their head. There's this kind of thing about eggs and cholesterol and heart disease, and it's bad for you, and fried eggs will give you a heart attack. None of this is true, of course. This is all bad data, bad science. But this is kind of a relationship people have in their head. It's an emotional attachment kind of thing. So when you say eggs cause blood clots, cause heart attacks on the field when you're playing football, people are just like, oh yeah, that's obviously makes sense. But it has nothing to do with that, and it has nothing to do with, it literally has to do with choline, according to this study that's being reported on. But the study doesn't say what the reporters are saying it says to begin with. So it's just magnificent. I just thought I would do a really quick, short, laughing video about this because I don't even know what to say. But if you want to know, the excuse they're making about the eggs is that choline is bad for you. Now, choline is an absolutely essential nutrient. And once again, look at these minimum recommended daily intakes. Not maximum, minimum. Okay? 930 milligrams per day for pregnant women. 550 for adult men, 425 milligrams for adult women who are not lactating or pregnant. Now, just really think about that. Given what choline does, it's essential for growing your cells and liver function. So just the okay. Trying to figure out how to say this quickly. It kicked my tripod. I have to do that every video. This minimum level. Look at exactly how high it is. This is an absolutely critical thing. Now, I would also like to note that according to a study in PubMed, in a study of 26 men, 6 developed symptoms of choline deficiency when consuming the recommended minimum daily intake of 550 milligrams per day. So deficiency is unhealthy, and it's kind of like possible even on the RDI. So if you're an endurance athlete, if you have a lot of alcohol, if you have fatty liver disease, there's a huge number of things that cause you to be at a greater risk of deficiency. So this is just one of those things that's really interesting, something to note. Also fish, cod, a 3-ounce serving, so it's a very small serving, basically half a serving, is 248, about the equivalent of just over 2 eggs in terms of choline. But of course, fish isn't being promoted as the cause of the badness, even though cod is the most common fish and chips fish. So soybean oil is also relatively high. Cauliflower is adequate. Salmon's about 1/3, a little under 1/3 of, 1/4 of cod, but it's still pretty high. So people aren't saying that, you should stop eating fish or soybean oil, but they're going on about eggs. So just some stuff to be aware of as people continue to have mysterious illnesses and deaths and heart conditions and sudden adult death syndrome and other diseases of exclusion. Blaming eggs probably isn't really a good idea. Makes even less sense than global warming. Stay sideways.